What is going on, everyone? My name's Boit, and I'm back with some more Age Mythology retold action brought to you by no one. In the bottom of the map, in the blue color, playing as Gaia, his name is Recon. In the top of the map, in the red color, playing as Poseidon, his name is Pegasus. The map is Steppe. Two of the best players currently playing Age of Mythology. Really enjoying watching Pegasus as he is shaking off some of the rust that formed over the past couple of months. He played Retold pretty heavily on release. He was sort of telling me about he probably maybe spent too much time grinding and trying to get to a really, really high level. He did get to a really high level. I believe he was like 4th or 5th in the Genesis tournament from memory. So, yeah, he's going to be looking to either return to that level or just maybe take things a little bit more easy as he's playing through these games. And I'm always excited to watch Pegasus. He's such a fun player to watch. Recon, on the other hand, he has been really showing everyone a whole bunch of different sort of ways to go about things. In this game here, he's already starting to heroize his citizens here. This is something that is unique to Gaia, in that for her, hero villages are a little bit cheaper. So it takes a little bit longer for them to pay them, or a little bit less time for them to pay themselves off. Obviously, it takes about, 4 seconds to convert a villager. So you're already losing out on 4 seconds of gather time. Plus, then you have to pay for the extra resources here for said hero citizen. I believe it's 10 wood and 75 food or something. I don't know. But pretty expensive. But there is a pretty big increase here. I think it's 0.15. So 0.15 food per second. You do the math on how long it takes to get you those 100-ish extra resources back. And then if you work that out, you realize that by the time anything really starts happening, you've paid off those villagers. It's a good idea if it's not going to slow you down too much. Now, Pegasus, he's going through areas. He advances really, really quick here. And he's already got... He actually didn't go for a storehouse. We're really, really fast areas advance. I'm a bit surprised to see this, but he's going to be looking to put some early game pressure on. But with the sort of build which Recon's doing, there's not really a whole lot which Pegasus can do here. Like, you send a Cyclops in, that can just get shanked down by Hero Citizen. You send the Atlanta in, I can just sort of shank down and sit underneath Town Center Fire. No problems. The Caladriel will come out, heal those up, and you're going to be totally fine. I also wouldn't be surprised to see Leto here from Recon in this matchup. And we are indeed going to be seeing Leto. So, not surprised, and we see it. Happy days as the Cyclops to come through. And I think part of the reason why Recon is wanting this Leto is mostly because he doesn't have a fantastic answer to Hippias, Hypaspis, Cyclops, and Heroes, right? All those things combined together. But if he can make himself those automaton, then all of a sudden he's got a really, really strong, like, quote-unquote, infantry unit that has no counter. Well, the counter is the heroes, but there's only 2 of them. So you can deal with those nicely. So we'll see what Recon is actually going to be planning, if he does go for a whole bunch of those, or if he's just going to be more playing for the stronger Pierce armor going into the middle of the game. But nonetheless, I like this idea from Pegasus just on the fact that he's probably going to go for a fast second town center. It's a relatively slow second town center with the speed of his advance time, but he's putting pressure on with the Cyclops over here. His Cyclops does move at 3.9 speed, so while the automaton can chase it down, it's not going to be an easy kill. The Cyclops does have that 3x versus myth units, 16 melee attack, 24 crush. Over here you've got that 11 here as well, so it's a big, big advantage for the Cyclops in this sort of a matchup. But if there's 2 automatons there, the automatons are going to start to win this sort of a fight as Pegasus is on the run. 4.2 speed versus 3.9 speed. As long as there's a hero over here, which there will be with the Atalanta, he should be okay. However, 1 Catapulti might be a little bit too much here, as the Atalanta to come in, a little bit of a shanky shank. Will slow the Catapulti down, but you got to be very careful here. You got to be so careful, as Well, he's going to pick up the catapulti at the very least here and throw that one away. Just getting little bits of damage. Now, Recon can just heal this back up underneath the Lush if he wants to. But for the time being, he's just going to be pulling back here as those catapultis under a tiny bit of pressure. And Recon here, wow, he's really having to play very defensively. But Pegasus going for this back fast second town center to some degree. This means all of this pressure is going to have to stop at some point. And he decides, all right, now's the time to stop. Now, if Recon wants to go for a town center, he can go for one. I wouldn't be against him just dropping 2 town centers here in the sort of like old school Atlantean style. If you guys remember way back to Legacy 2000, and I want to say it was about 2006, 2007. There's a guy called Army Corps. I love a bit of a history lesson. There's a guy called Army Corps, and he pioneered this Oranos style, which was used from that time onwards in different variations, right? But he pioneered this style of, okay, I'm going to open up with a whole bunch of Terma. I'm going to drop myself 2 town centers after my light early pressure, and then I'm going to boom to a Titan. There's been modifications to it, but the general idea is still there. Build a couple of units, go put pressure on, drop 2 town centers. And I think it's good in Retold as well. I've tried it out myself once or twice, and it's definitely not a terrible approach to playing Atlantean at the moment against any sort of fast second town center from a Greek player. So my opinion right now is, hey, just build some dudes and go and attack, and then we can drop some town centers later, and it's perfectly fine for the Atlanteans. Nonetheless, Theseus popping in and out as Recon pulling back. Recon is going to be going for his early shaft mine and bowsaw as the Atalanta in. Oh, I love this sort of animation cancelling here. Snipes 1 automaton, all the damage in the world coming in, but it's a good distraction while the villagers are grabbing the town center in the middle of the map. As Recon turns, tries to get a little bit of damage back onto him, but the heroes, they will clean this up as well. So Recon, he has to distract at the moment. He absolutely has to distract. Kick, sorry, thanks for the kind words, my friend. I did play the old age mythology. Big fan. Big fan of the new age mythology too. So, cool. Early game over. Both players going to have their second town center. I'd say Pegasus has gotten his town center much quicker than Recon, or obviously much quicker than Recon has. So there's a slight advantage for him right now, depending on what Recon does next. But Pegasus is going to go for the next age here. A nice, quick, fast heroic to some degree. As the Theseus does go down. And in he comes with Pegasus. Nice little pullback, but Pegasus is actually going for that third town center. And if you take a look at this from Recon, really, really smart play. He drops the spider layer down here, so he's going to know this is going up. So he can make an immediate reaction to this, get over and put some pressure on. More catapultis coming in for the time being as, wow, Aphrodite as well. This is incredibly greedy, to be honest. Like 3 town centers plus the heroic age. Atalanta going to take some damage here as one catapult. He does get surrounded. The catapults don't really do a whole lot of damage here. Great control here, pulling those low HP villagers back as the micro is now on for the time being here. As one catapult goes down, military academies ×2. And Pegasus has got himself a really, really good position now. Heroic age in, 3 town centers in. Pegasus will have to deal with, actually not even that. I was going to say Pegasus has to deal with a huge amount of automatons coming through. There's also this Jade Hair Relic, which I'd love for Recon to put into his temple. Making those automatons a little bit faster is a big, big deal. But one thing that Recon isn't doing here, which I'm less of a fan of, is he's not really building out oracles. If he had 6, 7, maybe 7 oracles out right now, these 2 town centers would look a lot more powerful. As Pegasus now grabbing himself medium infantry and Spear of Panic here. but not making any hoplites just yet, instead opting for a whole bunch of Hephaestus, but just having that option there. Do we see any stables? No stables for Pegasus. I think the idea of just having like a couple of stables down, just for the fact that you can build some prodromus if you need them to chase Contarius around, is a really good idea. Very, very cheap for Poseidon. They're only costing like 85 wood or something. So yeah, I think it's a fantastic way to kind of open to some degree, or just like have some sort of a fallback, because the hoplites, Hephaestus, that's gonna, well, hoplites won't, but Hephaestus are gonna really bait in a huge amount of Contarius. So having that answer is nice, as we are seeing the Nemean Lion spam coming through. Pegasus has not grabbed himself this golden apples technology, which I'm hating on right now, but I'm sure he's going to think about it a little bit later. But this is such a big upgrade to be grabbing when you have this amount of villagers on favor, because like, what is it, 20% extra favor increase on the villagers. It's the same as having that tech and having 7 villagers on favor. It's the same as Zeus having 7 villagers on favor. And if you've ever played with Zeus with 7 on favor, you realize that's a big deal. As Roar of Orthus coming through, I'm loving this. This is something that I personally love to do with Poseidon, which is get myself 3, 4 Nemean Lions. And then when we take the fights, I'm thinking about microing these Nemean Lions to overlap the Roars. And then after I do one little overlap of Roars manually, I'll set them back onto autocast. And if the fight goes for 20 seconds, then I'm going to get those Tigers to like automatically roar and overlap again. So I don't even have to micro it a second time. It's a really fun way to play. But nonetheless, we are seeing Recon. He is still sitting on this 2 town center angle. And he's fallen behind on tech, on villages, excuse me, but he's not fallen behind on tech. He's grabbing himself quarry, grabbing himself carpenters, getting himself this perception technology. Still doesn't have that many village oracles at the moment, so he's got to be somewhat careful moving forward, because he's not going to have a huge amount of favor in the bank. However, if we take a quick look at what is going on for Pegasus, Pegasus is now only getting himself Shaft Mine. He doesn't have himself Bowsaw, so he's on Hand Axe, so he's considerably behind on economic technology. So while he is in front on villages, which probably means he's got slightly more income than Recon, he has more villagers, so he's going to have more villagers gathering, which means he should have more income than Recon. It's only going to be a tiny bit more because of the differential in upgrades moving forward. As another town center on the bottom coming down for Recon now. Units moving across here. And do we see a little bit of your... Yes, we do. Huge amounts of stuns coming through here. However, those automatons are going to be incredibly powerful there, as Curse gets dropped down. The Peltast on the back sniping down those Chiroballister beautifully there, as Pegasus trying to dodge those Peltast beautifully. He's doing a great job of it, but in the end there, Recon, in the end there does end up losing that. All the Nemean Lions falling there, and it looks like Recon has managed to take this fight to some degree here. Hero is going to go down in the back. The automaton's going to be still alive here, which means all of those dead automatons can get brought back to life. Losing a fight here when playing against Leto is just not an option in the slightest, as the Atalanta gets torn down. Recon has not pulled back just yet. He's still going for it here. Do we see any automatons coming over here? Not just yet, as the Pestilence does get dropped down into the main base, hitting all of these buildings. That's going to slow down any sort of push here, as I'm pretty sure from this moment on, Pegasus should be able to start holding here. He needs to get his heroes back out to deal with those automatons, as I'm sure he'll move back over onto his automaton pile, get those repaired back up. There is a hefty amount here. What is that? 8 dead automatons. If he can repair all of them back up, he's just going to have an overwhelming amount of myth unit. That being said, if Pegasus can get to the Mythic Age, he'll have Polyphemus, and Polyphemus basically one hits these bad boys, but it's looking like those automaton bodies are done for. Took too long, and Recon doesn't get that huge advantage there. As now we're seeing some Arcus coming through, ranged soldiers as well. As Pegasus ready to snipe down some of those Deuterinos here. One Arcus hero goes down as the units are going to be pulling back up to the top. Archery range, archery range, archery range for Pegasus here. If we take a quick look, there's 5 of them. He's got 5 military academies as well, so he's really wanting to stay in this heroic age for a fairly long time here, it looks like. Part of me feels like just getting to the Mythic Age is a really important thing. However, Recon is doing the same. Recon not doing the same. Recon is going to the Mythic Age himself, which will give Pegasus a little bit of leeway right now to get some aggression happening. So I want to, it's really tough to know what your opponent's doing, but if Pegasus could have out like two Petropolis right now to start sieging down this fortified town center, he's got 2 minutes of big advantage cooking with all of his upgrades coming through and all the other good stuff right now. But Pegasus is just setting up all across the map. Another option here, and this is something that I think takes a little bit of time to sort of understand, is that when you're playing against Atlantean, there's not really any rush for you to get to the Mythic Age apart from getting access to that Polyphemus, to that 4th Age hero. Now, if you really need it, I don't think you need it against 9 Automaton. But if there's like 15 of them, and maybe you really need it to like help actually demolish them. But realistically here, what Pegasus actually needs is resources to repopulate an army and to hold whatever push Recon's going to be putting through. So we'll see how it's all going to go as Enyo's Bow of Horror as well coming in. Whole bunch of units queued up. Recon setting up to full population here as well as Pegasus pokes his head in. Villagers coming from the left up to the right-hand corner. Entirety of the map is now getting walled in over here as well by Pegasus. Love to see that as the pressure onto this position now starting to mount. And Recon, he says, hang on, this is going to be a really good fight for me as another Pestilence gets dropped down. Pegasus floating at only 200 population here, but he's feeling confident to take this fight for the time being. And I don't even think Recon needs to drop Implode on this fight. I think he's got more than enough Deuterinos to win as Pegasus needs to pull back. And then all of a sudden, not only did Pegasus lose this fight, but the timing of it just doesn't hit, because now there's going to be a potential implode onto his face here. As Recon says, all right, let's clean the fortress up, continue to push forward. Hoplites at 144 HP will mean that they will survive with 44 HP. But Toxotes at 78 HP, those won't survive. Heavy Peltas won't survive. Militia, they will survive. So one idea here to sort of play around Implode is to not build any Toxotes, or at the very least, keep the Toxotes out of the Implode. Retreat them as far as possible. And if they don't go in, then they obviously won't die, and the rest of the population is going to sit here. But a huge amount of pain now coming through as all of those units in the middle end up falling. But the Mythic Age is in for Pegasus now, as I'm sure he's going to be looking to hit an Earthquake somewhere. Running in 2 Hoplites into the main base, going to be looking to Earthquake that main town center. There's not really any significant upgrades at the moment as the Hoplite is in. Earthquakes drop down. That's going to be a dead town center and a whole bunch of dead buildings as well, potentially. The military barracks going down. At least some houses as well. Look like they're going to be falling there. Town center down. Lots of resources in the bank, however, for Recon to rebuild there. As Pegasus up to 164 pop of 247. He is getting himself the champion infantry. Champion range soldiers. Pretty cute, but a ways away for the time being. As now the Dryad numbers starting to come through. I want to point out here, one thing that happened in the recent patch is that these Dryads took a hit on their train time. But what would happen normally in before it was nerfed was that players could just build them all out of one tree. So you build one tree, you spam them all out, and in a fraction of a second, you feel like you got all your Dryads. Now, if you just want to use both of your trees, basically, make sure you click both of them when you're building the dryads, and they're still going to come out. They're going to come out slower, don't get me wrong, but it's not like you're waiting an eternity for them all to finish up, right? You're still going to have a completely good time with them. So just make sure you both of the trees as your option there. As the Polyphemus wandering forward here, looking to smack away at some Deuterinos, smacks the Argus. That Argus is going to be going down here as well, as it looks like now Recon has to pull back, and now this game gets into a really spicy situation. It's 3 town centers apiece, gold mines shared basically equally around the map. Polyphemus is out, so these myth units not going to be that much of an issue so long as Pegasus uses it correctly. Sniping down the Argus there as a little bit of that true damage comes through. We are seeing some pretty nice destroyers in as well, already at 88% armor, as I don't think Recon has got himself. He does have his upgrade there, so 88% armor with... Oh, he doesn't have this upgrade. He's missing this one from the temple. Missing his big upgrades there, but the automatons now charging forward as the heroes have been cleaned up, as I'm sure that Pegasus is going to be attempting to get his Polyphemus back into the fight. But even so, now the champion Toxotes are going to feel much more effective with those poison arrows to take out the automaton. As one Chimera ends up falling there. Gets a huge amount of damage done in the process, but nonetheless, Pegasus does have himself a huge amount of favor in the bank. I'm not sure what he's saving that for at the moment, but more Pestilence are completely fine to use. He's going to have Curse if he wants to drop that down. But at this point, I don't think it's much of an assistance. Probably the best way to go about it here is get some more myth units. Because there's no heroes out for Recon at the moment. Now, he can make them in a jiffy, but he needs to... Well, realistically, if Pegasus just had out a couple of Chimera now, he's got all the food in the world, get himself that upgrade, and just make a whole bunch of Chimera, that would be a huge help for his army. But at the moment, it's looking like he is doing a really nice job of holding. Peltas move forward, spreading those arrows out amongst all of those units here at the back. Let's do a quick little armory comparison here. Iron weapons and iron mail being missed for Recon. He's got all of his armory, all his shield upgrades, and Pegasus is missing quite a bit. He's missing the bronze shield, iron shield, but he is up to date on on bronze weapons and bronze mail as well. As the Petropolis now over, slowly sniping down this palace. And we'll see when Recon get into his element here. This is the thing where you're watching a Recon game, you're like, this isn't Recon. Where's Recon? And it's because he always sort of waits on it. When he pops into this moment where it's like, wow, this guy's so good at the game, it's when he starts making his army go into multiple different areas on the map, hitting like multiple different positions such that like your opponent just panics to some degree, or the opponent just panics to some degree, and it just becomes an absolute mess of a game. But nonetheless, the palace over here cleaned up. Pegasus getting close to full population. He is struggling a little bit for gold here. A market coming up into the corner of the map as Recon says, no, this is really important. I've got control of this position up here. You're not going to have control of this bottom spot. And I'm going to put a stop to this before it becomes a problem. As the destroyers will clean up a fortress incredibly quickly. And Pegasus now saying it's time to come into this town center. I think he needs to be concerned a lot more with that corner, because that's where you win and lose a game here in Age of Mythology Retold. The town center is obviously important as well, but not as important as a corner of the map, as Recon cleans everything up incredibly quickly here. The villager is killed off there. There is another villager down on the bottom. There's a couple of citizen over here that can move up here and attempt to just drop a palace and secure the rest of this position here as well. However, the town center for Recon, those hoplites and the Polyphemus to help take down the town center will kill it off very, very quickly here. We'll see if he can make it happen. As Recon turns around, we're going to get just a little bit of damage here. But Pegasus pulls back. He cleans this up. He has split up his army. Both players are getting into this multitasking shenanigans here. Town center down. But yet again, this is the problem for Pegasus. He's got himself somewhat of a trade route on this right-hand corner here. The trade route on the bottom left is gone for. So his trade is actually awful here for the moment, as all of the citizens going for the town center. He needs to sort that out somehow. Otherwise, life is going to get increasingly difficult for him in this game, as Recon is going to be trading incredibly well. As the Metropolis does manage to deny the settlement for the time being. There is a hefty villager differential here. Or population differential. Villager differential. There's a hefty population differential here, as the army coming in from the top side here, ready to start sniping down these units. Great control from Recon to start shooting, scooting backwards, with the hoplites now on top. The Peltas getting huge damage done. Population has dropped in a big way. Both players falling quite significantly here as Recon manages to get his town center back. We've got villagers coming over onto this bottom position, as well as a huge amount of destroyers just kind of hanging at the bottom of the map. Surprising to see Pegasus not able to hold this position, considering he had pretty much all of his population over there. But nonetheless, Recon back up to full pop, deals with the polar from this here, deals with this pressure. He's got, still hasn't got himself the control of this corner that I'd love to see. Get in here, wall this off. Maybe a palace here to secure the gold mine as well wouldn't go astray. That's exactly where he's going for at the moment, or at least a palace in the corner to secure that that primo gold position. As up to the top side here, Pegasus so much favor in the bank here. He's got 39 villagers on wood, 5,500 at the moment. An absolute crazy amount of wood income, as he does decide it's time to sell that, get himself a little bit of gold. I want to see a ton of farms coming through or something, as the destroyers with their 91% pierce armor right now, they are absolutely stonking. Think about a 90% unit as a building. This has got 90%. Sure, it's got 1,200 HP. That's a big difference. But 218 HP, 91% pierce armor. These Toxotes don't do a damn to those destroyers. I mean, the only damage they're really doing is that 1.5 damage over 3 seconds. Which, I mean, that's something, to be honest. But still, a couple of fortresses now coming down on this spot here for Pegasus. Maybe going to go into Hetairoi to try and take out the Arcus. That probably wouldn't be a terrible idea. If you can, like, switch into Hetairoi, maybe some Capaspist or something like that, that could be somewhat of an option here. But it's looking like Pegasus, he's got himself the 65 villagers on, well, that's 41 villagers on gold over here. He is trying to get this position, as we see some towers over here as well. As the Peltast getting pushed back, and Pegasus just can't keep himself afloat with population here, as Recon taking villagers out, staying at full pop, has a huge amount of resources to spend here. Now going to start making himself some Contarius to deal with some ranged units and all the other good stuff here as well. More destroyers to come through as well. He's got himself 5 palace here, plus he's also got conscripts and levy palace training facility here as well. So that's just destroyers just pumping so quickly, so absurdly quickly. More villagers going down. The Peltast on the back can't hold this position anymore. Pegasus retreats back. He's got himself a handful of donkey caravans here that are moving at 46 gold a trip, which is just not enough. As Recon looks like he might be coming to a victory here. He hasn't really found himself the quote-unquote tangible advantage. I mean, the tangible advantage is him holding both of the corners of the map right now, but he is so far in front on population, on economy, on everything, and Pegasus just can't hold on. What a weird but amazingly well played game here. I love this idea from Pegasus with the light pressure at the start to force the Atlantean player to sit in the base and just sort of defend while that second town center comes up. I love the fast heroic into grabbing that second town center. I felt like Pegasus had an amazing position here, but credit where credit's due. Recon with the sort of just grabbing all of the economic upgrades on one town center first, builds some units, then goes for his town center. I don't think he was that far behind on economy here. In fact, you take a look at this and you go, yeah, it's pretty close after all is said and done here. It's pretty close. Pegasus is still in front for the most part. But because of those upgrades, he keeps it close regardless of the fact that the civilian unit count was just so much better for Pegasus for so long. And that's the big story here, keeping it close. But then even with that, I think the big sort of decision-making problems here to some degree was with Recon going over to this corner here to claim this position, potentially instead of going for the town center, going for the corner over here to claim this for yourself and push back would have at least given Pegasus that sort of launch pad to continue to stay in this game. The other thing that was weird here was, I'm not sure why, but there was this fight midway in the game when when Recon lost his town center right about here. No, right about here, right? So this was at 25 minutes. Where militarily, 25 minutes. When militarily, Pegasus is way in front. Look at this. 68 to 59. So a big advantage on this fight. Plus, I think that Recon had destroyers up on this left-hand corner. And these destroyers, they're 3 population. So there's a hefty amount of population not in the fight. But Pegasus still lost that fight. So I don't know if that was just a tech disadvantage or what was going on there. But if he won that fight, I think this game would have been completely different. So yeah, I don't know what happened there, why that one went poorly for Pegasus, but I think he had a great spot. Really nice strategy. Great strat from Recon. You can see that 2 great strats can come down to the smallest differences about who actually finds a win in these sorts of games. Anyways, if you guys enjoyed this one, please consider hitting the follow on the Twitch. If you're on the YouTube, hit that subscribe button. I'll see you guys in the next game.